Hello everybody and welcome to our next Holding Space webinar. It's lovely to see you logging in here today, all your lovely friendly faces from around Australia and elsewhere. My name is Jackie Short, I'm the Clinical Director of Sydney Centre for Creative Change. And this episode it's going to be exciting because we have Margie Braunstein online with us. There's Margie waving, and she's going to do a special guest presentation on mindfulness meditation for us today. I'd like to welcome you all here from wherever you're logging in from. And I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm sitting on today, the Eora people of the Gadigal Nation, and pay our collective respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. What we have installed today is a number of things. Margie's going to come on soon and tell us a little bit about mindfulness meditation and guide us in 2 different exercises in that. We're also going to have some time to connect in with each other as we've been doing these past weeks. And people have been giving us lots of great feedback about how they really value an opportunity for a few minutes to connect in with 1 or 2 others and to make some sense of the presentation and relate it to their own lives. And then also to be able to do a little bit of planning around that as well. So we'll be having 2 opportunities in our breakout rooms. We'll also have an opportunity to hear about some other approaches for managing stress and anxiety. So just stay on after Margie's finished today and I'll talk you through some of those approaches. We've also got some giveaways. We've got some free webinars again to give away, and also some meditation, access to other types of meditation that will be free also. So stay on board for those and I'll talk you through those. So I'd like to just briefly let you know what we're going to be doing today. As I mentioned, we've got a special guest, the clinical psychotherapist, Margie Braunstein, who's going to be coming on with us in just a moment. I'm going to be sharing a UK resource I found recently, specifically on learning and living with worry and anxiety amidst global uncertainty. And that resource will also be up on the website for you to access later if you'd like. We're going to have opportunities to connect in and we'll have some prize giveaways. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Margie to you. Margie is a clinical psychotherapist who lives and works in Sydney. She has been working and specialising in the field of particularly managing anxiety and stress using a variety of different tools, including mindfulness. And that's something that she's really specialised in. She works at a number of different locations, including her own private practice in Sydney. And she does a lot of training for Quest for Life, and she's one of their key presenters on that wonderful program. She's also written a book called Getting to the Heart of Stress, which she might mention a little bit more to you. And she's also one of our trainers. So she's running webinars and other workshops for us, which she'll share with you a little bit later. But today we're going to hear from her, and I'd like to welcome you now, Margie.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, psychotherapist, group facilitator, all for over 25 years, but not necessarily a Zoom professional yet. So hopefully there's understanding for me in that arena. But we're getting there and getting there pretty quickly these days.
Absolutely, and coming on board really fast with that, Margie. Margie, that's obviously been one of the opportunities I know for you in this time. You were just telling me before how you've just bought a new computer, which is exciting, and you're going to use one of the ATO benefits to try and offset that a little bit. Have there been any other particular opportunities or challenges that you've faced personally or professionally at this time?
Yeah. Well, I think that everybody is dealing in their own way with this crisis that we've got going on. It's a very surreal kind of feeling, isn't it? That no one's really sick around me, and yet we're so restricted, so heavily restricted. So I think the challenge is, I read a wonderful article the other day that said, we're not all in the same boat. We're in the same storm, but we're in very different boats. And some people are navigating that from a place of, they're having a holiday, or they're retiring early, or they're having fun. Other people, it's a nightmare and everything between. So for me, I've been a little bit everything in between. Most of my work dried up, although a lot of my psychotherapy clients have continued with phone sessions. It's not the same, but I do a lot of phone work anyway. So for some of them, it's no different. So that's been interesting. That's been a challenge, having to be present with people and mindful. I had a client the other night, a young client of mine, a teenage client, rang me with a panic attack, like 10 o'clock at night, and just had to talk her down out of that. So I'm finding my clients are very, very agitated and provoked by it. And so that's been a challenge, dealing with clients that need more emergency care than normally. And personally, I have just been up and down, really rattled by it. I did a bit of comfort eating in the beginning and put a few kilos on, but I have balanced that out a little bit with a really committed walking routine that I have every day. But that doesn't necessarily help with the weight. So now I've become more conscious, and I'm not eating my feelings anymore. That's really, I feel so much more empowered with that.
Thank you for sharing that, Margie. And I know you've got a great presentation lined up for us today. So I'll hand over, and we really look forward to everything that you can share with us.
Okay. Thank you. So how lovely to see all your faces, and I've already scrolled through and looked at everyone's faces on all the pages. Lovely to see you all. I'm just looking at you all again. I don't think I've met any of you before. So thank you, Jackie, for welcoming me onto the program team at the Centre for Creative Change. I'm really looking forward to working with you all as the year progresses and as I become part of the teaching team. So look, I think if we're going to talk about mindfulness, I have got a presentation. I always have notes. I could talk for 3 hours without notes, but that's the problem. We need to actually keep some containment. So I do have a structure. We're going to talk about what is mindfulness. Really, that's such a buzzword, isn't it? And everyone hears about it and thinks they know, and most of us do know what it means. I'm going to talk about some really simple practices that will give you the the easy skills of becoming mindful and how to use that everyday life, especially to reduce anxiety and stress, which is my area of research and interest, especially the neuroscience of stress. I'm not going to go into detail about that today, but I will in future programs. And then I'm going to talk about the obstacles. Put your hand up if you think mindful meditation would be good for you. Now, put your hand up if you do it every day. All right? Can you see the differences of people on the screen? We hear about it. So it's such a buzzword. We hear about it every day that it's good for you to meditate, right? And yet we don't do it. So we're going to address some of the obstacles and ways to easily get around that so you can use it. And I'm going to finish my session with a breathing exercise. It's also very easy and can help you to reduce anxiety. It's emergency first aid really for your mental health. So that's the plan. I'm going to be about 20 minutes, so keep my eye on the time as well. I really welcome your feedback, interactivity and comments. I always feel when I'm with a group that we have a collective wisdom. It's certainly not me sitting here as an expert telling you what I think you should do with your life. I think that all of us as mature adults, as professionals, already have so much wisdom on board. I really feel that today's session is a reminder for you to do what you probably already know works. And maybe there'll be something new in here as well, I hope so. So does that sound like a plan? I'm getting a few nods. Lovely. Okay. So as I said, mindfulness is not new. It's such a buzzword, and really it's a very, very easy thing to practice. But there is so much information out there. I'm going to separate the idea of mindfulness from meditation, because really all meditation is a mindful practice. So mindfulness in itself is the ability to stay present in this moment. And it was really made popular by Jon Kabat-Zinn back in the 60s and 70s. Many of you will know his work. And of course, he went on to create mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, which is now run in hospitals and private clinics all over the world. And I do love his work, and it's so simple. If you ever want to just learn about this in more depth, just look at Jon Kabat-Zinn's stuff online. It's fantastic. So mindfulness really, its definition is to bring your mind to the place where you want it to be, because generally our thoughts can be all over the place and they're generally in charge. And I think that's why cognitive behavioral therapy is so fantastic, because it also brings awareness to what you're doing with your cognition. And so mindfulness really supports this idea. Where is your attention right now? You know? Is it back in the past? Is it off in the future? Is it worrying about something? Is it creating anxiety? And there's a beautiful old quote many of you will know, which is, the mind is a beautiful servant. beautiful servant. We use it to create this amazing world that we're in, but it is a very dangerous master. You do not want your mind to be in charge of things. Of course, it raises the question, if I'm not my mind, then who am I? But that's another esoteric discussion for a different day, I think. But we do know that as human beings, we have a sense of metacognition, that we can actually witness ourselves thinking. And so we get to be in charge of where we put our thoughts. But most of the time, we're not mindful with that. We just let our mind take us on a merry old roller coaster all over the place, which then stimulates the body to create chemistry. And then before you know it, you're in full-blown anxiety, stress, whatever the feelings are going on with that. So I do have a YouTube clip. It's about 2 minutes long, and I'm going to attempt screen sharing, even better. So we'll see how we go with this, and hopefully it'll all work well. Share screen. Here's this little one. I'll just take it back to the beginning and make sure that you can all hear. Let me know if you can't be heard. Okay.
We can think about mindfulness as a process or as a flow. And when we first begin to practice, we're starting with an intention to be in the present moment, to cultivate wakefulness. And it's with this intention that we then can place our attention on a particular experience. And when we first begin, placing the attention on our body or our breath is extremely supportive, because the body and the breath are always in the present moment. And with this intention to place our attention with our body or breath, we start to develop a feedback loop where the intention supports the attention, and our continuing attention keeps the intention going. So that's when we can experience those moments of feeling really present, of being mindful. Now, it'd be great if this is where the story ended, but we all know there are moments where we take a detour, where there's a distraction. We get lost in a feeling, a thought, or a sensation that arises and pulls us into the experience. And we can not recognize that we're lost in the experience rather than being aware of the experience. Fortunately, at some point, we'll wake up. And when we wake up, this is where we can start to notice the next component, which is the attitude. And if our attitude in the moment of waking up is one of self-judgment, self-criticism, then that will pull us back into being lost. But if we can cultivate this attitude of non-judging, of acceptance, of self-kindness, of patience, of understanding, then that's what will allow us to reconnect with our intention, this intention to be wakeful. And we do this by simply starting again without judgment right in this moment. And when we do that, starting again is in of itself a radical act of self-kindness. So we can see this entire process as a flow. So the skill is learning to cultivate this way of paying attention so that we can allow whatever is unfolding to unfold.
Hopefully that brings me back to you all. So, yeah, screen sharing is closed. I looked around for quite a few different animations and things, but I think that just sums it up so beautifully. And it's where you place your attention so that your intention for having inner calm can be there. But I love the addition of attitude. If we can also not judge ourselves when we lose attention, when we do go off down into that long and deep black hole that sometimes absorbs us. Jon Kabat-Zinn, his famous quote is that mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment, on purpose, with intention, and without judgment, which is basically that animation. So let's just, before we go on to anything else, let's just take a moment to practice it in the easiest way. You don't even have to close your eyes. We will do a meditation, but just for the moment, just bring your awareness into your body. Right here, eyes open, just bring your awareness into your body sitting in the chair. And I want you to notice your hands. Can you feel your hands? Yeah? Can you feel the sensation in your hands? Now, the moment before I asked you to feel your hands, were you aware of your hands? Right? Unless you've got some pain or neuropathy or something, generally we're not aware of where our attention is until we decide where we want to place it. So now I would ask you to feel your feet. Take your awareness down into your feet. Can you feel your feet? Was your attention in your feet prior to that? Right? So this is just how simple it is. And my phone, of course, is now making a noise. I hope you didn't hear that. I thought I'd turned it on silent. So the body is always present, and that is the key to mindfulness. And often you find the most inner peace, the most calm in the present moment. It is our mind that takes us off into all these machinations and ruminations that then leads us down that slippery slope into all the feelings. So if you are caught in all the feelings, these practices can help to kind of just cut that and bring you back and be back in charge again, because this is really about personal mastery. That's what I think mindfulness is about more than anything else. It's you having mastery over where you put your attention and what your intention is to be calm. So that little body scan that we just did in its most simplest form is the easiest way to practice meditation. And this all, as I said, we've got a webinar coming up in a couple of weeks where I'll delve more into this, where we'll look at the brain function, and this limbic system of the brain, right, which holds all of our emotional centers of the brain. And it can easily, as we know, the amygdala hijack, which you've probably all heard of, can easily hijack us into these heightened levels, activation of the nervous system, which are not conducive to our well-being, our health, or our productivity and relationships. So we want to be able to calm that limbic system, calm down that amygdala that starts firing off the alarms as quickly as possible. So I thought we'll just do a short mindfulness meditation, show you how easy it is. We're going to do something similar to what we just did, but we're going to close our eyes this time. Now, with all meditation, I would say never make yourself wrong and the meditation right. If it doesn't work for you in some way, it's not the right one for you. How could my voice be right for 100% of people on the planet? So if it disturbs you or you don't feel comfortable, it's only a few minutes long. Just open your eyes and wait, it'll be over soon. But if you're happy closing your eyes, that's a good idea. It just closes out and all the visual stimulus coming in. But if closing your eyes is uncomfortable, just gaze down onto your lap or let your eyes be tiny slits, something like that that's comfortable. Willing to give it a go? All right, I'm going to close my eyes. So the very first thing to do is just close your eyes down and withdraw your attention from where it's been. So maybe it's been on the computer screen, listening, something else happening around you, or an activity you've been engaged in. Bring your awareness inside your own skin body, inside your own mind, as if you're withdrawing your attention and pulling it back inside yourself. And then just simply being aware of the pressure of your body in the chair. Notice the movement of air as you breathe. You'll notice the gentle rise and fall of your belly. And just begin to notice how you feel. Rather than giving the feeling a name, bring it back to the level of sensation. So what are you sensing in your gut, in your belly? Can you let that sensation be there without judgment? Just noticing the sensation in your lower belly, in your stomach, in your chest. Just allowing it to be there without judgment. And notice what you're feeling inside your brain. Notice your brain inside your head. What's the quality of the feeling? Is it a heaviness, a lightness? Is it comfortable, or is there something uncomfortable there? Bring your awareness behind your eyes. Sense your eyes, your eyeballs in the sockets. Notice any movement, maybe your eyelids are fluttering a bit. And notice any tension you're holding in your body. If there's some movement you want to make, just stretch your shoulders back or your arms, wriggle your shoulders or move your head, just to see if you can relieve that tension a wee bit. Just have a nice sigh. Bring awareness now to your feet. Notice the feeling of your feet, deep inside your feet. Any sensation there. The sensation inside your hands. The hands are often a great place to find sensation and just bring mindful awareness to. And when you're ready, just having a little stretch and then opening your eyes. So any comments that anyone would like to make about that? If you just put your hand up, you can unmute yourself, and if there's anything you want to say. How was it just feeling the sensation without the judgment? Anyone feel like saying anything? Give me a thumbs up if you feel more relaxed, a little tiny bit more relaxed after that. People? Okay. The thing with our emotions is, I'm trained as a somatic psychotherapist, which just means that I am aware of the body and I have an interest in anatomy and neuroscience. But we all start with a level of sensation in the body. All feeling and emotion starts at the level of sensation. Then we add a story to it and we give it a name. We say, I'm feeling butterflies in my tummy. Oh, I think that's I'm feeling anxious, right? And so we give it a name, which is then the feeling. And then we layer on top of the feeling, the emotion. I'm feeling anxious and I don't know what to do with it. We exmovery, to move out. So we start to express it out and do things to try and control our environment or something to calm it down. My preference is eating, as you know, when I'm not conscious. So what we want to do in a really great way to bring mindfulness into your body is to stay at the level of sensation. We are so well trained in going to the feelings and the emotions, but when you come back to, I'm feeling like a tightness in my chest, I'm feeling like a butterflies in my gut, you know, I'm feeling a heaviness right down deep in my belly. I'm just feeling like all the energy is rising up. When you actually come in touch with that without judgment, but you pay attention to it on purpose in the present moment and just let it be, usually it will move through quite quickly. And it's a great way for working with our clients as well when they're very, very distressed, or with children. Children love it when you just say, wow, where are you feeling that? Are you feeling that in your tummy? How does that feel? Children really love that validation and empathy of what's going on in their body because they haven't lost connection as much as we have. Yes, we have a great mind, but I think that sometimes we overuse it. So we do want to get clear on what we're feeling in the body and sensations. And again, that's something else I'll pick up down the track. So what we want to do is become observant of those sensations. So just right now, eyes open, what are some of the sensations you're feeling? Anyone feel like sharing just a sensation, not a label, not what you're feeling, but what you're sensing in your body right now? Anyone got a quick one word that you could share with us?
Heavy brain.
Heavy brain. Anyone else?
Bloated tummy.
A bloated tummy. Thank you, Shilpi. And thank you, Lana. I did read your name there. Anyone else?
Calmness.
Calmness. Where do you feel that calmness, Lourdes?
It's sort of like in my heart.
Ah,
I feel like it's like expanding.
Yeah. Anyone else? Look, we're very, very well trained. Sorry, Louise? You didn't unmute, Louise. Could you just unmute?
Soft belly.
Soft belly. Lovely. We're often not... Yeah, who was that?
It's Swati, cold.
Hey, Swati. Cold. Yeah. And we're often very well trained. I mean, our academic system is set up from the time that our little ones come into school to really privilege the mind over the body. So there's a lot of data that you can collect from the body once you tune into it. And it's just a really easy way of calming yourself to come down into the body and not just use the mind. So then we can use the mind as a beautiful servant when we need to. We're not demonizing the mind in any way. It's a magnificent tool, absolutely. So how are we going for time? I did warn Jackie that I could easily go over my 20 minutes. All right. So how do we increase this mindful awareness? Sometimes I'll do something like I'll have something around me that reminds me, some piece of jewelry or something on my desk. I went through a stage once where I had I think it was probably clinical depression, not diagnosed, but it went on for too long before I sought help. I know that. And so I ended up just having a little post-it note on my screen on my computer that said, 1 breath. Just take 1 breath. You know, and it just helped to bring me back. So if there's something you can do to remind you, a screensaver on your phone, so that every time you pick it up, it goes, breathe, take a moment. What am I feeling? What am I sensing? Something like that. I really recommend it, to have it around you. Often it's good to do it with a piece of jewelry like my wedding ring that I already have on all the time. So it's something that I can easily anchor that part of, you know, my awareness into. So it's something like that. So I guess I want to talk finally about the obstacles to it. What stops us from doing these short mindful meditation practices? What gets in the way of it? Anyone got any comments about why you think you know it's a good idea, but you perhaps don't do it? Just go to the next screen as well, in case there's some people there that might want to say something.
Hi there, Margie.
Hi, Melissa.
I think it's just something that we often associate mindfulness and meditation to something that's nice to do often, because it requires a little bit more time, and you know, for a lot of people, we're so busy on the go that we don't often think of it as useful to provide us with a recharge. So, you know, I use my time traffic lights, not now because I've been driving, but usually my 2 minutes have between the traffic light changes as my mindful moment, just to breathe.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's right. Mindful, I guess that's just the distinction. Thank you for that. Mindfulness is the practice of being as present as possible in every single moment of your life. A mindfulness meditation is strengthening that ability by bringing your awareness back to whatever you're focusing on during your meditation. So obviously we could teach a 7-day program on meditation. So, but in the very much just the basics of meditation is whatever you choose, whether it's your breath or a mantra or a candle, or you're listening to someone's voice, whatever you're choosing, what will happen is that you'll set your intention to meditate, you'll sit down, and then the mind gets busy. Is there anyone here who's ever picked up the message that if you're meditating, you should be having no thoughts? Anyone? Some people. It's a common error that I come across, that people think if they're thinking too much during meditation that they're getting it wrong, and then so they give up the practice. And it's quite a common thing. If you've learned to meditate, you'll already know. In fact, the practice of meditation, from my perspective and from my teachers, is to sit with an intention to take your mind to wherever you want it to be, and then notice the thoughts that distract you and keep bringing it back. And then you notice thoughts and you come back to the breath. Notice thoughts, come back to the breath. And if you do that 1,000 times in a 10-minute meditation, that's a good meditation. You are both getting the benefits of meditation, which I'll pick up on at another time in the webinar perhaps, but you're also strengthening your ability to choose at will where to put your attention. So it's the most magical practice, meditation. But mindfulness, you can do it anytime, open eyes, in the car, at the traffic lights, anywhere you like. You can do the washing hands mindfulness. You know, we're all doing that at the moment. So next time you do it, make sure you feel the water, you notice the soap, you smell it. I actually had a funny little story recently where I'd done some exercise in the morning and then I'd gone out for a walk again in the afternoon. And I said to my partner, David, I said, did I have a shower this morning after I went for that walk? I couldn't remember if I'd had a shower in the morning. And I thought, maybe it's early dementia. No, seriously, I thought, why can't I remember if I had a shower or not? Is this my second shower? Anyway, you get the picture. So I was worrying that I was losing my mind. And then I realized that I just wasn't present while I was in that shower in the morning. And that David said, yeah, I think you did. So the next time I had a shower, I thought, right, I'm going to be really mindful. So I noticed the colors, the water, the warmth, all of the senses of the body. And you know what? I still remember that shower, and it's like 6 weeks ago. So it's really fantastic for improving cognition and memory and all sorts of things. So you get the difference between mindfulness and mindful meditation. All meditation really is mindfulness, but it's just the practice where you close out the visual information and you bring yourself to a place of calm. That has an amazing effect on the vagus nerve, on the chemistry of your body, on the limbic system in your brain. There's so many benefits to meditation, and I will go into those in more depth, because meditation is no longer just the place of the East, kind of mystic stuff. It really is commonplace mainstream Western medicine now. So just to finish, really the thing that stops us, I think, mostly from doing these things that we think are good for us are habits of being. And if you want to integrate something like this into a new habit, there's some tips I have around that, which is only ever try to change one habit at a time. Do not try and do 3 things at once, change your diet, your meditation practice and everything else, because our willpower only gets us to very, very short way. So if you can just change one thing at a time, make it a ritual, do it every day, piggyback it on the back of something else. If you brush your teeth every day, then brush your teeth and sit for 5 minutes to do a little mindfulness practice, and just piggyback it on the back of that. So there's more tips, and as I said, I will flesh this out a little bit more. So I want to finish with a breath meditation, but just to summarize, mindfulness really is a catchword that everybody uses, and you have to make up your own interpretation of that. But I hope I've explained it in a way that's simple, because I think the most profound practices we have in life are also the simplest. Keep the practice something easy that you can do, that you can commit to doing every day, whether that's your mindfulness practice while you're doing any activity, or whether it's a meditation, a formal meditation where you sit down, which gives you slightly different benefits. So I'm going to challenge you after we finish today to do one thing that you could do really mindfully. What would that be, do you think? Would it be having a cup of tea, or shower, or walk? What would you be willing to commit to? What could be useful?
I think there's Lana, because it's raining. I actually like to, at the end of a day, like before bed, get a cup of chamomile tea and really focus on like the breath and the sensations. And that really helps me to calm myself for the end of the day, and just to help me sleep.
Yeah, beautiful. So really noticing your lips on the hot cup and the liquid going down the throat. Yeah. So just make it an easy practice. But if you could just do one thing today, really, once you have the motivation to want to do something, then you'll find the right time to be creative with that. So I thought I might finish with a short, yes, it's time to finish with a short breathing exercise, which is basically deep abdominal breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. So here's a little test. I want you all to take a very long, deep breath. We're not trying to do anything, just take a long, deep breath. Now, I saw it on the screens. Who feels like they got a little taller when they breathed in? Right? That is the way we don't want to breathe, right? It's very, very common that we breathe up into our chest. Right, so now I want you to try breathing, either putting your hands on your sides or just imagining your diaphragm. I want you to imagine that instead of breathing up taller, you're breathing wider. So imagine that you're breathing wide. So I'll stand up. I wasn't planning to stand up, but I have got so here you want to breathe wide out like that. If you can take a breath where you just breathe wide. Not over breathing, just directing your breath into the sides. Now, you might even want to keep your hand on your chest so that you can actually bring to mind to keep your chest still. Chest breathing is really the extra breath that you need if you're running from a predator in terms of our evolution. When you're breathing high in your chest, it can aggravate anxiety because you're giving an implied message to the body that there's a lion chasing me, I've got to give extra breath, right? And then we forget to breathe down low. So did you notice, let's try that wide breathing again. Just gentle, not over breathing, just deeper into your body. Now, do you notice that your tummy inflates? It's impossible to hold your stomach in when you're doing this. Yes? Right. So all we're going to do is a 1-minute breathing exercise. You can do it with your eyes open or you can do it with your eyes closed. I personally find closing my eyes enhances the relaxation effect, but you absolutely don't have to close your eyes. It's up to you. So let's just take a moment. Find yourself in a position that's comfortable. If you're crossed your legs, uncross them perhaps. Feet on the floor, about hip width apart. You want your bottom to be pushed back into the chair. Find spine fairly straight, and then once you've got that, it's a bit rigid, let go of all the holding in your stomach muscles and your shoulders. So you've got nice support for your spine, but you're not holding any muscles tight. Now you can put your hand on your chest if you need to, and one on your belly. That can be quite useful. Kind of me for hiccuping. And I just want you to have a normal, natural breath, but direct it deep down into the belly. Imagine that inside your belly is a balloon. You know, balloons are narrower at the top and they get fat down the bottom. So you're breathing in and filling up that balloon right down deep into your pelvis. Now we're just going to add one more element. I want you to imagine on your out breath that you have a straw between your lips and you are blowing it out through your mouth. So breathe in as normal and then breathe all the way out until the natural impulse to breathe in again comes. A couple of those on your own. Keeping the chest still, just filling the lower belly. Last one. And then letting go of all the concentration on the breath. Just notice how you're feeling, any sensations in the body. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes. So give me a thumbs up if that was okay for you. Yes? Thumbs down if it wasn't. Anyone uncomfortable? It is possible sometimes that you can become more anxious when you breathe, depending on what your particular trauma has been. Every practice isn't right for every person, but it's fairly generally accepted. The reason we ask you to blow out, I asked you to blow out through the straw, is that when you're anxious, you tend to overbreathe high into your chest and you tend to get too much oxygen into the body. Remember the old breathing in and out through the paper bag for the panic attack? Right? That was to increase CO2 levels in the body and to decrease oxygen. So blowing out through the straw, did anyone notice their breath became much more elongated when they blew out as if through a straw? Right. So the purpose of that is to give you a longer out breath. I find it easier than trying to breathe out on my own longer. So look, thank you so much. I have loved being with you this morning. I hope you come to the 90-minute webinar that I'll be doing, what dates? 14th of May. I'll be doing this one, yes, for 90 minutes. I'm looking at Jackie, will talk about it later. Or on the 2 half-day programs, what I'm really looking forward to do, where we can really do a lot of deep relaxation work and you can really feel it. Today really is a shorter version of that, and I hope that it meant something to you and that you take something with you. And I wish you much peace and presence. So thank you. and I shall mute.
Margie, are you open just to a couple of very quick questions? We've got one from lots of thank yous coming through here, which is great. Is there a better time of the day to meditate?
There is a very popular idea that meditating first thing in the morning can be ideal because the busyness of the day, of your own day, but also the busyness literally of the traffic has not started. So it's actually a little bit more calm, and it can certainly support that. But really, I say grab it where you can. The thing is, if you're trying to put a practice in or restart a practice, then to do it at the same time every day is probably more important, and do it in the same place in your house, because that supports you. If you walk past the chair and you go, oh, I haven't been there yet, it'll support you it'll call you to come and sit. So it doesn't really matter. I find if I meditate too close to sleep, it's too stimulating for me. So I meditate first thing in the morning and before exercise. Sometimes I miss out in the morning because I've got an early start, so I'll do it in the afternoon. But once a day, start with 2 minutes, build up the muscle to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 20 is an ideal. But morning is often just get it out of the way, get it done. Yeah.
And the last question, in amongst all those lovely thanks and appreciations for what people have learned in this presentation, would you say that mindfulness is even a way of being, Margie?
I would say that it is a way of being. I think that there's a difference between states and stages. If anyone's read any Ken Wilber, he talks about this beautifully, that the more often you practice being in a state of being, the more you move towards being in that stage of being in that place of mindfulness. So just practice the state of being regularly throughout your day. And what happens is your body becomes more habituated it until you're really just living in a more present state. But the purpose is to wake up and to be mindful and conscious. And I think most of us spend a lifetime doing that. It's not a place that there's a destination that you reach. It's a day-to-day practice of becoming and being more mindful. So yeah, I think it's a state of being rather than who you are. It's a state of how you feel and how your being feels. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Margie. You're a wealth of wisdom, and it's lovely to have you as our special guest today to
thank you all so much.
Yeah, your beautiful warmth and your voice and your great tips there. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at your upcoming webinar and the workshop you're doing for us. So thanks for being here today. I'd like to offer you the opportunity now in small groups of about 3 people to check in with yourself and check in with 1 or 2 others about one thing that you found most useful about this presentation Margie just offered and the 2 different mindfulness exercises she guided us through. She issued us with an invitation to think about one way that we can be more mindful during the day, or one activity we could be doing that we could exercise more mindfulness in. So that could be something that you share, one application. So 2 things to share with your group. The thing that you found most useful, it could have been something you've remembered, something that you've learned this morning, and one way that you can apply it, either for yourself and or for others. So something that was useful and an application. But Linda, would you like to?
Hi, Jackie. And thank you, both of you, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, Margie. And it was lovely for me to hear that Margie acknowledged that when you're meditating mindfully or however, because I've done it for a long time and I always thought, oh, I'm still missing it a bit because my thoughts are there, you know, my thoughts are there, but I have, you know, worked it to like let it go through my head and come back to that mindfulness. And I know if I stay longer, I can really then concentrate on my body and my body parts, and those mind thinking stuff stops. So thank you so much for that, Margie.
Lovely. Thank you, Linda. Anybody else like to share? All right, we've got some lovely comments coming in from the chat. I loved having an anchor to remind myself of being mindful. Even more important with these new online platforms and present chaos, to help those around us, young people particularly, with grounding practices before counselling sessions. That's lovely. Thank you, Vicky. Yeah, some great thoughts and reflections there. And I know there were many others.
I'm also aware of even the language that we're using to remind, to come back to your mind, to remind, and to remember, which is to come back to the body. The member is the body. So I just love it, the way it's in the language, and listening to you talk, I'm going, that's it. It's always there in the language as well. So yeah, to remind ourselves.
Lovely. Thank you, Margie. Oh, I think Anna, you wanted to share something?
I'd just like to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to share a little bit of wisdom from my mother, who passed at 96.5 last year. She used to say to me, she was Greek, she cooked beautifully. And I'd say to her, my cooking's never like yours. She said, did you make it with love? And it's a really interesting, because mindfully cooking sorts me out. Like I'm actually quite creative and impulsive when I cook, but if I stop and I cook mindfully, it tastes better. I just share that.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. I can see lots of smiles and thumbs up in response to that too. So for anyone who's cooking today or tomorrow, let's stir a bit more love into whatever it is that we're baking or frying. That's lovely. I think we might leave it there. I know there's a little bit more questions, but I know you've got to go, Margie. Thank you so much for generously coming on board today. And we look forward to seeing you at another occasion, whether it's a webinar or the workshop coming up. I'll let people know about those. Thank you. See you later on. Thanks everyone for participating in those discussions and small groups, and giving some thought to thoughtfulness in a different way, or mindfulness, as we've been focusing on today. It's lovely having Margie there and being able to connect in with each other just briefly now also. I wanted to share an additional resource with you today while we're focusing on worry and managing anxiety. And this is a UK resource I came across a couple of weeks ago, and a copy of it is downloadable on our website at the moment. I just wanted to show you what it looked like and give you an opportunity to do one particular exercise in relation to this. It's a CBT-based exercise, so it's more about the mind than it is about mindfulness generally, but this resource is called Living with Worry and Anxiety Amidst Global Uncertainty. And the tool itself, I'll show you, looks like this. Living with Worry and Anxiety Amidst Global Uncertainty. It is quite a few pages. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through it, but Dr. Matthew Wally and Dr. Hardeep Kaur have generously made it available for us at this time, defining what worry is, what it feels like at a physical as well as a mental level, some different triggers and things that promote worry and anxiety, and there's plenty around, as we know, at the moment. The recognition there's different types of worries, both real world concerns and ones that are more hypothetical or potentials that we're worried about, when it might be able to become a problem. So there's normal worry that can motivate us for change and it can actually be useful, but it can get to an excessive point where clearly it no longer is. There are things that we can do about it, and they've got a whole lot of suggestions there. But the thing I particularly wanted to focus on was understanding how we can look after ourselves and get to a point of well-being. And there's some exercises, I won't go through all of these, but some CBT type thought challenging tools and some final tips. So that's what that resource looks like. And as I said, that is available on our website. You can have a look at it. But what I wanted to share with you was this particular tool. And really, if we're trying to get ourselves to a better place of well-being and supporting those around us to have greater well-being at this time of uncertainty and worry and anxiety, what do we need to do in terms of maximising the things that we can control in terms of what gives us pleasure, what builds connection for us, and what gives us a sense of achievement? And in the last couple of series on this holding space, we've focused on different elements of this, but I really like this simple model that helps us remember that for most of us, well-being is a good balance of those three things. So what I'd like you to think about, and we'll be back into small groups in just a moment, again for just a few minutes with the people that you're in that group with before. What is it in the last week that's given you pleasure, that you can continue to commit to having a little bit of in your life? It might be gardening, it might be drinking red wine, there might be other things that are giving you pleasure, maybe not every day, but that you can look forward to. So what gives you pleasure at the moment? What helps you build connection? So connection with yourself, and certainly doing those mindfulness exercises helps us build a deep and inner connection with how we are right now, how it is for us, as well as a connection with those in our immediate spheres and more remotely. What are we doing to build and maintain those connections? And what's one thing that you've done in the last week and you're hoping to be able to continue to do to buy yourself a sense of achievement? And it might not be to do with work, it might be, but it might be finishing a jigsaw puzzle or learning a musical instrument or reading a book online or whatever achievement you want to set for yourself. What's one thing in each of those spheres that you've done for yourself and you feel like you can continue to commit to, or you'd like to call in if you recognise that there's a bit of a lack in one of those areas? In terms of pleasure, connection and achievement, one thing in each of those is the first thing to share. And the second thing is there one of these areas that needs more attention? Am I spending more time focusing on pleasure eating than I am on small achievements that I might be able to feel a greater sense of well-being from, or connection? So is there one of those three areas that needs a little bit more attention for you this coming week? So I'll get Aidan to put you back into your group of three just for a couple of minutes, so just a minute or two each, and then we'll come back together and we'll finish up today with some giveaways. So look forward to seeing you in a few moments. There's one person I think who was very keen to say something. Who was that?
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I was just talking about in the space of like COVID-19 that it's been interesting because I am working, but work's been quite rapidly changing and hectic. So the sense of achievement has not been there that strongly. So I think, like I was just saying to the small group that I was in, that maybe just focusing on, like, because I am achieving a lot, but it's just because of the chaoticness that you can lose that. So I think just trying to really be mindful and remind myself of those other smaller, you know, achievements, I guess.
Absolutely. I think we do have to rejig our expectations of ourselves and what achievement does look like. So great to reflect on that. Excellent. Anybody else want to share on that briefly? Greg, yes.
When I looked at the three areas, I thought to myself, yep, pleasure is nice, achievement is good, but connection is vital. And for me, connection brings about the pleasure, and it also brings about the achievement. I would prefer to have, instead of the word achievement, expanding or growing with yourself. And for me, that is something I've been working on, growing with myself, and that is where the joy comes from for me, as opposed to the things that are external to me.
Lovely. Thank you, Greg, for that reframe and acknowledging what it is that you want to be focusing on. Fantastic. Thank you for all doing that exercise. Lisa just wants to say something very briefly too. Lisa, you might just have to unmute yourself first.
I was like, as we were doing the exercise and thinking of those three areas, and then we got to the bit with connection, I was thinking even those little groups, like being able to break out in a training online with some other people, like I don't even know where the other ladies were from, but that was a real nice sense of connection to share. So I thought that was like useful, but it was also another connection at the moment. That was...
Thank you for
really
Lisa
nice.
for reflecting on that. And that's something that I think is really important to me, to continue to offer these free opportunities where people can get some ideas about how they can maximise their own well-being and their own sense of balance and holding space for themselves and others, and that we can also connect in these small groups and individually. And it's something that we're really privileging in our webinars and our workshops that we're running as well. So thanks for that reflection. The mindfulness one that Margie's got coming up on the 4th of May, you can book in for that on the website as you booked in for this if you'd like to. And just to let you know, the next free one we've got coming up, and I know a lot of you have already booked for that, this is going to be one with Dr. Robert Grant, who's a counsellor and a play therapist from Missouri in the States. And he came to Australia last year and did a 2-day presentation for us. He's also run another 2 webinars that are on demand, and you can purchase those if you're interested. But he's going to be doing this free guest presentation for about 20 minutes, half an hour next Monday. It's early in the morning because that's the time that suits him best in where he is in North America. So if you are able to come in early on that one, we'll also be recording it and it'll be available after I've edited it about a week or so later. So that's what we've got coming up. And I look forward to seeing you at another one of our webinars or training sometime very soon. So thank you all for being here today and participating, and I hope you all continue to mindfully breathe and mindfully be as you go through today, and I look forward to seeing you when we next meet. All the best.